George. Now I turn to Ambassador Sibal. So I have two questions for you.
Yeah.
The article in Hindustan Times on September 30th, 2014, when Prime Minister was still Washington, was carried the headline, Indo-US relations not natural partners at all. Ended with the line, the US is a hard nut to crack, and even if it could be, its contents are none too sweet. On and around the visit, I have read 4 or 5 articles of yours in different publications, and their headlines have read like Telegraph, a tricky relationship, next Indo-US relations, a way forward. The last one, Obama visit has put ties on a fast track. So there is evolution of positivity. How do you see the relationship now? Are the contents still too sweet, or they are sweet and sour, but not bitter at all? My second question is, in the joint statement, the leaders reaffirmed the need for joint and concerted efforts to disrupt entities like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, D Company, Haqqani Network, and agreed to continue on ongoing efforts in Homeland Security Dialogue, India-US working groups on counter-terrorism. Do you think these pledges, promises will remain on paper, or we can see some concrete action by US and India together on these? Thank you.
Thank you. I think the previous speaker has said that these panels somehow focus on negatives. So since you have asked me leading questions which are negative in the orientation, so I have a field day now. I can be as negative as I want to be. Anyway, let me give you my reading of the situation. In the process, I'll answer the questions that you have posed. I think President Obama was right in saying that the visit was rich in symbolism and also that substantive progress was made. I had thought that when the previous speaker was going to share with us some real top secret assessment of the president about the visit, the only thing he could say was, now hard work begins. I have had so many visits, and so has Ambassador Meera Shankar, but this is what one often hears from a departing president who's satisfied with the visit and a rich agenda has been drawn up. And then the advice always is, now the hard work begins. So anyway, I think from the positive side, I would say that one big takeaway was the excellent personal chemistry that was established between the two leaders. This is important, especially in the American system, also in our own system, of course, but in the American system, because if you have the White House overseeing the relationship with a country, that's a huge asset. And so the fact that these hotlines have been established and this personal chemistry has been established would be very helpful in getting the White House to continue focusing on the India-US relationship and move it forward and remove the roadblocks on the way. I was a bit surprised that I suppose these were the initial comments that were made by the previous speaker, that the one thing that has excited everyone in terms of the results of the visit is the agreement on the nuclear question. I find surprisingly that of the 50 some odd, 59 paragraphs, this figures at para 43. So it's sort of hidden away somewhere and hasn't been given that much importance. Though from what you can judge from the manner in which the visit was projected in terms of the deliverables, this was absolutely high on the list. Both sides have agreed that understandings have been reached on this question, and yet there are question marks about what are the nature of the understandings and has a finality been reached on these matters. But one good thing is that both sides have agreed to remove this from the political plane and leave it to now the commercial companies to deal with it, though on our side, our commercial company is a state-owned company, so the government will continue to be involved. I think some clarity is still needed on the nuclear liability issue and the administrative engagement arrangements that have been agreed upon. On the DTTI, It was announced even in September in Washington that this agreement will be renewed for another 10 years and it will be more ambitious. We do not know what the agreement is, in the sense that the text has not been revealed, so we can't judge what are those more ambitious elements that figure in this. Though in terms of the actual projects that have been agreed to, I might say that in some ways one can certainly look at it as a positive step forward and not be too nitpicking about it. But on the other hand, if we want to look at it objectively, these are sort of low level, low technologies in terms of complexity. In other words, there's caution on both sides, and they have been called pathfinder projects, which actually is a more how should I say, fashionable word for pilot projects. So basically what we have agreed to are pilot projects. I think from the geopolitical point of view, the most important result from the visit is the joint vision statement, joint US-India joint strategic vision for the Asia-Pacific and the Indian Ocean region. This statement has very important geopolitical implications. I think the question has been asked in the United States lately, how can India be strategically useful to the US? And I think with this in mind, this strategic vision statement has been drafted, and basically it is the sense of this statement is how India can be strategically useful to the United States. It's not very clear how US can be useful to the United States. I'm not even 1/3 way through, but nevertheless. Anyway, I'll then make a comment on this later on. Then you mentioned this paragraph on terrorism and all that. They've listed all the organizations we are going to jointly work against, and I have repeatedly pointed out that the Taliban is missing from this. And it surprises me that nobody's taking cognizance of this, because yes, some of the other organizations are a threat to everybody, but in terms of the threat to us, because the Taliban is an instrument in the hands of Pakistan for its Afghan policy and for its Indian policy. And this has been omitted from the organizations against which both sides will work to disrupt their functioning and everything else. Anyway, since my time is up, I will not speak about some other shortcomings in terms of the economic outcomes of the visit. But I suppose since the others have to say their piece in 5 minutes, I'll leave it to them and come back again. Thank you.